this is the last session. I would like not say last, but show-stopping session. And we would like to keep it as interactive so that, and then we'll not make any delay. We'll stick to the time also. To start with, in last 2 days, you have gone through the various techno-commercial aspects of the solar energy, then the energy storage, and then this, so overall related to the energy and the energy storage. Now, we would like to move just slightly move towards the other area, that is the transport sector, because the energy and transport sector, these are the two sectors which are most effective, or you can say the most important sectors for the development and for the business. This session is about the electric vehicles, the path to a more economically and environmentally advanced ASEAN region. And we have the expert panelist with me, Mr. Steve McCraw. Sorry. Mr. Steve McCraw is a result-oriented chief executive and the board member with the international experience in the IT, data and communication, energy and renewable energy market segments, experience with the large corporate and the early stage corporate environments. For the last 8 years, he has been focused primarily on the renewable energy market, founding one of the Australia's leading solar EPC companies, and more recently with the Australian Power Systems, Asia Pacific, lithium-ion battery pack specialist with the deep knowledge of EV and ESS applications. I think we can discuss in the couple of last sessions, there was an issue about the battery technology, that also we can take it up now. And then we have another expert, Rosilio. Rosilio is a country business development manager of ABB Philippines. He is a country business development and the channel partner manager of ABB in the Philippines. He is responsible for conducting the competitive intelligence that will result in a deeper market understanding. Prior to joining the ABB in 2016, Mr. Rosilio has handled a number of leadership roles in the companies like First Philic Incorporation, BASF Philippines, and the GE Electric. The third panel member is Mr. Edmund Araga. He is VP of Electric Vehicle Association of Philippines and also the VP of Manufacturing of KEA Industrial Corporation. So so his experience about the electric vehicle development in Philippines will be very useful in this discussion. KEA is one of the pioneer manufacturing and assembler of the e-trike. KEA is a metal component part business since last 25 years and now diversifying into the EV manufacturing. I am Hemant Nandan Pawar. I work with Ernst & Young. I am an engineer with professional experience of more than 20 years in the area of clean energy, climate change, and the sustainable development. Now, to start with this session, I would like to put some thoughts on this, you can say the transport sector, environment, and what is going on, and then we can have a discussion with the panelists. If you say that, as we know, in the energy sector, the coal is one of the most pollutant. diesel is next, like that. But if you say if it's the transport sector, then the transport sector is one of the largest contributor of the energy related greenhouse gas emissions in globally, and it is expected to grow very fast, and it is to grow 50% by the 2015. Controlling GHG emissions growth of transport sector is necessary in view of the limiting the global temperature increase to below 2 degrees Celsius as agreed in the Paris Agreement to avoid the extreme climate changes effects. As per the IEA study, further analysis reflects that the electric vehicle have great role to play limiting the transport sector emissions, and because this is the one of the reason that why the global world or the development sector is interested in investing in the EV, and that technology and development is happening, the awareness is happening, climate change because of the pollutions and these things. In view of the various environmental, climate change and the human health related benefits, electric vehicle is witnessing an increasing trends across the globe, specifically in the developed regions. However, the economics of the electric vehicles as well as the physical issues such as the changing infrastructure depending on the grid connected power put a constraint on the fast growth of the electric vehicles. Now, fact and figures, that means in last 2 days you must have gone through that, how in the various sectors the technology is getting developed, how it is, how the storage is important. Energy storage, battery is one of the important component of the electric vehicles and other things. So in this panel discussion, we would like to cover the experience of our eminent speakers in this electric vehicles development, promotion, and the technological issues. So to start with, I would like to raise the first question to my panelists, that what is your thinking? That means there is a lot of things happening in the common market, in the business, that yes, EV has to be used, electric vehicle has to be used. But what is the main trigger? Do you think that the pollution which the cities, that means the city, if you have to have a sustainable development of the cities, then it can play a big role, because lot of countries, that means if you see Beijing or in India, the New Delhi, they are facing a lot of issues because of the vehicular pollution. And this is one of the you can say the biggest pollution taking place in the cities, especially in the cities. So do you think that the awareness about the emissions which are happening and the pollution effects which are being seen in last maybe 10-15 years, so is it the one triggering for the electric vehicles? Mr. Steve?
There's no doubt that from an environmental point of view, that's one of the major triggers, but I think it's the effect of that. You know, the impact on people's health, the impact on just the economic impact of that is going to be one of the major triggers moving forward. I think is you know, in a lot of the developing countries, as the population starts to understand that you know, driving around in that type of environment is going to really you know, impact them. So I think that's going to be one of the major drivers. The other is actually the cost, because as so there's going to be an economic driver. The cost of we know the cost of traditional fossil fuels is increasing, and you have a situation now where, you know, EVs are going to become much more economic, and their running costs will be a lot lower. So I think there's going to be economic drivers.
Okay. So that means economics and along with the, you can say, the pollution and other issues, economics is also one of the important parameter for the trigger.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
One more thing. That means before we go to the next speaker, can you just in 3 to 4 minutes explain about your experience in this area, the electric vehicle development and the promotion?
Yeah, so the track record of Octillion Power Systems, which is the company that I represent, they own about 15% of the EV marketplace in China. So have been developing battery packs for traditional EV applications for the last nearly 10 years. And is our factory at the moment is pushing out well in excess of a gigawatt hour right now. So we have customers such as JAC, Beijing Auto. We're doing work in India with Tata and Ashok Leyland, doing some bus and EV projects there. And here locally, we've done a joint venture, or have struck a very strong relationship with a local group called Zelino that has made a pay-per-use payment gateway that allows the battery in MiniEV marketplace to be, instead of paying for it up front, it's pay as you go, and that allows a lot of the economics falls through to the drivers, so it's a much better proposition for them.
Thank you. Thanks for the same. And then I would like to request Rosalino to start with your introduction about your company and your experience in the EV sector, and then take up the question of
Yeah.
the trigger.
Yeah, okay. Good afternoon. So I guess it's really cold in here. So, yeah. Let me just wait for the slide to come up.
Yeah.
And, okay. Yeah. Anyway, good afternoon, guys. So, yeah. This is a poor. That's his slide. So, so maybe he could go ahead. Okay.
Hi, good afternoon. I think I appreciate your invitation in the place as a representative of Electric Vehicle Association of the Philippines. Well, to start off, Evap started in 2008 in addressing pressing concerns on the public utility vehicles in the Philippines. Now, our association was a pool of manufacturers, pool of assemblers, and pool of users in making this advocacy on promoting environmental friendly mode of transportation, electric vehicle. Now, we further enhance it by having some 6 summits already for the past 6 years. But the latest one was we established the first ASEAN EV Summit that was held last June 29 and 30, wherein Steve McRae was one of the speakers there, and so as the Sir Ruchi from ABB attended the event. Our intention was to collaborate and promote the electric vehicles in the ASEAN region, and to further enhance our capabilities and to benchmark its capabilities and to have transfer technologies from each and every country members. And we also address concern on what is the issue on on the basic trends in the market. It's more of innovation that makes the EV industry being on the sunrise industry that is being accepted worldwide. And this entails on pushing some programs with each country members have its own version of how they promote electric vehicles. Now, with this ASEAN summit, first ASEAN summit, we established the first AFEBA, ASEAN Federation of Electric and Hybrid Vehicles Association, wherein initially being membered by Evap, Electric Vehicles Association of Thailand, EVAM, Electric Vehicle Association of Malaysia, EVAS of Singapore, and us, Evap. We spearheaded this association to let them know that we are very serious on promoting the electric vehicles in the region. And we would like to further get more incentives, more benefits, not only to the government, but all to the users as well, in further giving a mind's view of how it is to educate that making use of an electric vehicle is an environmental friendly vehicle. Now, to further enhance on the question that, as I mentioned, uh, it's not only the factors of pollution, but also on the factors of innovating some new technologies that further enhance country members to know better what they are capable of. Each and every country has its own approach on the mode of transportation that they have. And apparently, each has its own share of how they can further enhance and develop electric vehicle industry as far as their capacity is concerned. And with government regulations and support with each country member, it will give a big boost on making the industry more capable of promoting it to the users.
Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon once again. Yeah, anyway, just a quick introduction about ABB. I think a majority of the guys in the room actually know us more as a power and automation company. So we're more on the creation of turbines, transformers, and anything that goes to the grid. So that's basically how the company started way back in the 1940s. Now, as we move forward, we started to realize that we needed to go downstream. We needed to actually support what was actually connected to the grid. So we felt that as a company, we have the moral obligation to help sustain and develop technologies that could actually make things smarter. So we've heard about smart energy storage systems, smart grids, and everything else. Why not smart e-vehicle charging stations and everything? So as you could see from the slide, one of the things that we've actually been trying to do is develop an EV charging infrastructure that's smart enough that you could control from your smartphones. I think everyone here in the room has a smartphone, and everyone would like to actually see how your car is actually charging from somewhere. And this is what we're trying to actually develop as we move forward. The philosophy that we take as a company is we follow the car. We try to actually follow what's the global trend. We don't like to create anything new. We are a believer of free markets. We do believe in proprietary IPs and everything which was discussed earlier, but as much as possible, we try to actually create something that's agnostic. People that could that people could actually use in a generic and in general term. This is what we believe that will bring prices down, make the market more competitive, make it better for consumers and everyone else. So not just for ABB, but for battery suppliers and everyone. And lastly, we bring in the expertise as far as the grid integration is concerned. Charging a car is not a small thing like charging a cell phone. So when you charge a car in your house, of course, if you use DC charging, you might burn down your house. As an electrical engineering company, this is where we take pride on. While we develop this front-end technology, we try to develop the back-end side as well to protect the infrastructure that we currently have to make it more efficient and more greener. Now going back to your question, it's actually a very difficult question because yeah, you're talking about political, economic, social, technological, and legal aspect of what will trigger. But on a personal and maybe on a professional level, I think we have all those things moving at the same time at this point in time. You have the political triggers wherein you've seen our colleague from the Evap actually shown that there's a modernization program coming up, and if this is something that we could take advantage of, this would be nice. The economic side, this is something that, yeah, I think all of us will be discussing this afternoon. The social side, there's actually a push for greener things. And the technological side, yes, the technology is there. It's just a matter of actually adapting it. So, yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Rosalina. Before we move to the next round, I have a question for Mr. Edmund, that in last 4 5 years, there was a lot of efforts have been, I think, the banks, MDBs, or you can say the ADB are making the efforts in view of funding for the jeepneys, electric jeepneys. S- I was with ADB for 6 years, and then I shifted to Ernst and Young. So that time, of 4 years back, it was a big project of almost 5,000 plus was agreed of electric jeepneys. But still it is not moving. So because the government seems to be not interested to take that loan, which is quite cheaper, is almost in the range of 2%. I think less than almost a percentage, 1%. It's like a grant. It's not a grant. That means you have to repay the loan, but there is no interest. 1% is just like a negligible. But then also, so in view of government and or in view of your association, the government says that it's not viable for the jeepney holders to shift from the normal jeepneys to the electric jeepneys. So what is your stand on that? And so if the bilaterals, multilateral support is not being taken, then do you think that on its own it is going to develop? That means with market rates and the rate of interest, the investment is viable and like that. So what is this?
First is, it seems that you're talking with the E-Trike ADB project,
Yeah.
not the Egypt.
Yeah.
Okay, the E-Trike project was offered by ADB through the efforts of Department of Energy, and it was escalated to the members of the association and to the local government units. But apparently, it didn't work out well, simply because there are no takers. One was that local government units doesn't want to take the opportunity because as per their understanding, they have to get the budget that they have, the existing budget. We call it IRA. Okay, IRA is the one that makes them work as to handle the city, but they don't want to raise the IRA that they are earning or that the budget that they have for the city, simply because the cost of the unit is too high, and as per their further budgetary constraints, they don't emphasize only on the transport alone. They have other projects that the priority projects that they have to dwell with. Secondly is that I'm not saying that we were not being approached, but it simply just have to study further before it was being launched, because first was that the condition on 5-year term on the warranty of the units is so impossible. 5-year term for the lithium battery, that is the warranty for the batteries wherein lithium battery here in the Philippines is still questionable because there's no local supplier for that. Still an imported one. So that's where the problem is. Now apparently they awarded BMAC on that issue, and BMAC already supplied the first 1,000 unit, but still there are no takers simply because the high cost of their offering, and given the fact that local government unit is still not ready when they offered it. So it should have been assessed first. Let them know first of what would be the project is before they offered it, so that they would come up with a good approach, or maybe, just maybe, how can they deal with that offer or grant. So secondly is that if we're trying to hype up on the Egypt, as you all know, we have now the modernization program, as mentioned, and as being seen on the on the slide that we provided. It's going to take off next year, probably by first month of the year, January. They're now trying to decide which supplier will be chosen. And actually, on the PUB modernization program, it only not speaks of electric, it speaks of a Euro 4 compliant, whereby they also considered that some of the jeepneys have longer routes that electric vehicles cannot address. Simply because there are some portions in the Philippines that are on a slope, that are very high hill, and they took more than 30 passengers in one trip. So those are the things that hindrance the electric vehicles. So they have to come up with conventional ones, which is of Euro 4 standards, and has to have to modernize the dilapidated 15-year jeepneys that are plying the routes of Metropolis, not only in Metro Manila, but all over the Philippines. Now, we're taking a step that the government right now is very supportive on this industry, simply because they see really a change that they needed in order for the users to be more helpful in terms of health reasons, safety factors, and at the same time on approaching the creating more jobs to people, especially to the drivers, that they would earn more with this type of program.
Very true. That means it's not the question of government, or you can say the regulators, it's a question of the common people and those who travel with the jeepneys and the e-tracks, and with those people who are running those jeepneys. So it's there has to be an integration. I think that I think you have more responsibility with your association that to take it up in this case. Yeah, please.
Just to put a sort of supplier perspective on what Edmund was saying, you know, one of the problems with with that program, and perhaps with the jeepney program, will be just the cost, right? And so, you know, one of the key factors here for the whole industry is, you know, how do we get scale into the business? How do we, you know, one of the problems, if you look at just the EV industry, there's not a standard battery that goes into it. You know, there's a lot of design work. It takes years and years for the suppliers to put the, you know, to put the battery packs together and get them into the vehicles. It really is no different with if it's a mini EV, right? And in fact, I'd argue very strongly that the environment that the mini EVs operate in is harder and tougher on the batteries, especially, than just a typical EV. So, you know, you've got all those factors, and you've got the factor of how do we get scale into the business if there's no sort of standardization in the, you know, with the EV units themselves, or the mini EV units themselves. If you go to you know, you go to Kia, and they say, well, we want a battery, and you say, fine, well, you know, where do you want to put it? And they say, well, we want to put it in this space. And then you go to the next supplier and he says, well, but I want it in this space. And the trouble is, $500,000 at least to actually design one up and then modify it, put it through all the approvals, etc. So you've got these competing things of we need scale, and scale probably in this market segment needs some sort of standardization versus, you know, the cost elements.
Thanks. So in this case, now as you mentioned that segmentization and the battery is one of the issue. So in your view, what should be, that means in view of the ASEAN transport and the people's requirement, what is more recommended, like mini or the, you can say the mainstream or the hybrid? So what should be promoted on higher priority?
Yeah, good question. It's, you know, without a doubt, ASEAN, there's a need for somehow everybody working together to get this last mile of transport done with EVs. So, and really a lot of the solutions are going to have to come out of this area because, you know, the large car manufacturers are, you know, they're focused on what they do and their worldwide markets. So, you know, certainly for, you know, the Philippines and Thailand and, you know, the other ASEAN countries, we've got to pull the solutions together for the, you know, for that last mile or last kilometres of transport. You know, I think for those, you know, because of the cost implications and all those type of things, it's got to be pure battery and maybe not a hybrid type environment, which is potentially going to drive too much cost into it.
Thank you. So Rosalino, what do you think in this case? That means which should be the best one option for, at least for the Philippines and the ASEAN, that whether if the investment has to be done, so on which area the more investment should go, whether it's hybrid, mainstream or mini?
Yeah, as Stephen, it's actually quite a difficult and interesting question because yeah, it could go either way.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I think the key word that he actually shared in his earlier talk was about standardization. The industry needs to actually pull itself together and make a conscious decision that this is how we try to standardize things for our industry locally or even in ASEAN in order to create the economies of scale for suppliers. Because as far as ABB is concerned, as a perspective of a commercial supplier, as we said, we just follow the car. We follow industries. I think half the room actually knows the standards CHAdeMO and CCS. This is on the infrastructure side of charging. These are actually standards which were actually developed by car industries themselves. This was not actually developed by any government regulations or whatever. And this is, I think, what we need to do on a local level. We need to actually look beyond the competitive landscape and basically create an industry wherein all of the players could actually play in that space.
Before we go to the next, you want to say, yeah, please. Yeah.
Yeah, in addition to that, I attended and represented Philippines during the APEC Vietnam. And one of the aspects was that in the electric vehicle industry, they're only looking for 4 wheels, basically on the cars. But they didn't ask what would be the regular mode of transportation in the ASEAN market. In Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, they're using 3 wheels. In Malaysia, they don't allow 3-wheel vehicles. Only 2-wheel and 4 wheels. Now, on those aspects, it has to have a standardization and to harmonize it, establish it, and enroll it, like such as there are some UNECE requirements that has to establish the harmonization of all types of mode of transportation has to be standardized and make some guidelines. That's why Evap made ASEAN e-vehicle federation, we have to gather and collate everything that has to be standardized in order for us to have create economies of scale, being common to all, that these ASEAN are using this type of vehicle and this type of setup in the battery, and as this setup of, you know, in terms of importation and exportation is concerned, it would create harmony from within. That's how we really want to address the issue. Now, in particular, we are not we cannot be compared to car manufacturers wherein they are their research and development are being filtered with a lot of money. Us, it's how we can depend on what are we capable of, what can we offer to the market. So that's where the association comes in, and that's where the implementation of policies and guidelines from each standardizations of each government units will have to harmonize in order to create a new set of concept. And that's my idea on it.
Okay, thank you. My next question is to Mr. Rosilino, that regarding this the ecosystem, as you mentioned, how this the whole EV ecosystem, which includes EVs, then the charging stations, and the government and the policy regulation. So, what are your insights on the trends on this, and how this is moving, so that the moving toward the sustainable city development, or you can say the smart city development towards?
Yeah. So basically, I think all of us in this room actually know that it's a chicken and egg discussion. But what actually comes first? Is it the infrastructure? Is it the cars that actually comes first that actually goes on the road? So, so basically, based on our experience, no one is actually more than willing to actually invest and start the ball rolling. But with the recent discussions that we've been having with private groups, a lot are actually more than willing now to actually put their eggs just to get the things going. So on the vehicle side, you have guys like themselves, the Evap group, the association in ASEAN, who's actually trying to actually push the levels, the boundary of actually how we actually develop all the standardization, these programs for at the vehicle side. On the infrastructure side, you have companies like ABB who try to actually work on a global scale. I understand where he was actually saying that, yes, you might be working with the big players, Toyota, Mitsubishi, Volvo, all these companies who has the financial capacity to develop their own technologies inside. But the thing is, we're also aware that this technology needs to be localized. This is where companies like ourselves actually come in, try to actually share our expertise on a global level, and try to actually help localize all those learnings and knowledge that we actually have on a global scale. Yeah, it might be debatable. It could be a very long talk between the three of us. But the thing is, what I believe in, if we want to really make the Philippines a global player, we have to look at global trends. We have to look at how the big players are actually coming. Now, the economics might be a debatable area. They have finances that they could develop their own technologies. But I believe that we have the expertise to actually localize all this technology. We have access to this one. It's just a matter of open discussions and actually putting it on the table. Again, a lot of companies like themselves, QEV, Meralco, those are some of a few who are actually coming out into the open and is actually saying, we are more than willing to invest in the infrastructure. Now it's your turn to actually bring the vehicles on the road. So again, this is something that we look forward to as a non-player of this ecosystem. We're more of a technology partner to this ecosystem. We're excited to actually see this one develop maybe in the first half of next year.
Thanks. I think in your point, it seems that we have the technology also. That means one of the issue may be a technology transfer also. So technology transfer, then the battery cost, then you can say the regulation, because policy and regulation is one of the major area. So what in this area, what are the biggest roadblocks which are affecting the promotion of EV, accelerated promotion? Yes, the various organizations are working, but it is not taking up that speed or that shape which is expected. So accelerated growth is not happening. So what do you feel? To start with, Steve.
I think I sort of touched on one of the aspects before, and that is, getting scale into the business somehow so that we can get the prices down. And that really applies to the battery, because in the mini EV marketplace, that's half the cost. Yes. Right, so coming up with ways to drive that cost down, and there are a number of ways of doing that. The other sort of elephant in the room, I think, is the fact that, and with all due respect to Kia and other organisations like that, they're still relatively small organisations, and the amount of systems integration work that's necessary to make a mini EV system work is not that far behind a full car, right? So, you want it to last, 5 or 10 years. You want it to operate every day. You want it to be safe. All those type of things, and to get this whole supply chain working together to where you can put out a product that is reliable, works well, gives you the performance that you're looking for, and all those type of things is not easy given the ecosystem that's in place at the moment. And I guess we talked about the fact that getting some standardization is going to help that. But the amount of capital that needs to go in to properly integrate this whole the whole unit is quite considerable, and a lot more than people actually think. They think you can just we'll get a battery and we'll put it in and it'll be fine, or we'll get a drivetrain and we'll throw it in and it'll be fine. It doesn't work like that. And so I think that's something that we've got to overcome somehow.
But one thing is that means if battery is one of the things, then what are the developments are going on for that is going to affect the reduced cost? That means it is known, that means from 10 years back, whatever the cost was there, it has reduced almost by 60-70%. Now, how much further reduction is possible?
Yeah, that question gets asked all the time, right? If you look at the solar marketplace, the cost of solar has come down, average 11-12% every year. Now, sometimes with solar, it's gone like this, sits for a while and then you get a big drop. If you look at the cost of batteries, that's reducing and has been reducing for the last, 5 years or more at the same sort of rate. So I think you can expect over the coming years to, battery storage to be reducing by that sort of 10 to 15% per annum. There might be a few, drops there driven by, market forces. What's the minimum? Well, if you talk to Elon Musk, it's, $100 or something like that. I'm not sure the technology will allow you to actually go that low. But certainly you can be expecting in the not too foreseeable future, prices down to, a couple of $100 per kilowatt hour for the battery.
Yeah, this is the main issue, because wherever the people have brought the EVs, I have an example. 4 years back in Nepal, the Windrock International, they got some subsidized cost, and then from somewhere they received the 2 electric vehicles. I used them when I was doing one project with for the ADB. So that time, another vehicle was in the garage. So I used to see that only one vehicle is running, other is not. So I just asked that what is the reason? That means they said already it is 4 years and now the battery is gone. So cost of the battery is so high that it is they don't want to replace it unless and until they get some funding or like that. So I said, how many days it has been, it is the battery is out? He said almost 1.5 years now. So it is, that means this is one of the roadblocks, battery. If the person buys it and then start using also, and then if the next time he doesn't get, then it is very discouraging.
Yeah, I think that the approach that a lot of the systems integrators have been taking is one really based around price and price alone. You know, if you've got to put a fit-for-purpose battery into a mini EV. You can't just go out and buy a lithium-ion battery pack, slap some sort of BMS on it, and think it's going to, you know, give you the, you know, the 3 or the 5 or the 10 years that you're looking for. It's got to be a well-developed and well-thought-out solution. And at the moment, people have just been sort of buying a battery pack and putting it in and seeing if it'll work. In a lot of cases, it hasn't been.
Thank you. If you have any questions on this, you can always text it. I think during the session we can take it anytime, the questions, since it's there, or you can raise your hand and then we can have the questions also, take it. Now, Edmund has mentioned that and the panel has also mentioned that the standardization is one of the important factors in this case. So if you have to be overall, that means international standards, local standards. So what the organizations and the private sector is taking efforts so that the components and the overall manufacturing set is standardized in view of EV, so that the like if it is manufactured in Philippines, it can be exported to the international market, ASEAN and out of ASEAN also. So what are the efforts going on, and what is your view?
So we just have our first step on into the having
standardization and quality control both.
Yeah, okay. In terms of the standardization, our government here in the Philippines are working with us right now, reaching out to the manufacturers like us and some members of the Evap, that we are now partaking on setting up the new guidelines on the electric vehicles. And these electric vehicle guidelines that is being tapped to a technical working group on the Bureau of Product Standards will be our benchmark to other regional ASEAN countries as well. And we will have to sit on it, and how we can be able to harmonize all the standard procedures, systems, setups, all the qualities that we have to address upon in making the user. We are looking at only for the user and for the buyers of the electric vehicles as concerned. And that includes also the usage of the motor, establishing what type of batteries that we have to comply with, what are the testing parameters that they have to record it with and pass have it pass, so that we would be able to establish a more concise and more reliable product of electric vehicle. Now, on the part of the Evap, we are now really reaching out each and every country members. They also, we're now trying to gather their procedures and their standardizations. And we're now trying to talk about it and have it benchmark it and have it finding ways on how we can consolidate into one as ASEAN. That's where we're looking at. So we just started with last June, and each and every member countries has their own potentials on sharing their ideas as well and giving their insights on each and every electric vehicles that they are being using.
Okay. Well, in this case, that means in standardization, are you thinking of consideration of the labeling also? Like in energy, there is a labeling. That means whatever the EV is there, so how efficient it is, how much it will lead to the energy, and then the emissions also.
Actually, when we developed this electric vehicle, that specs were also being addressed. The precision of each usage, whereby how precise or how reliable this unit was being addressed by each and every manufacturer, because we have to come up with our own image that this unit is truly a reliable unit. And at the same time, we are trying to create an image in the industry, not only to our industry, but to the market as well. When we are selling unit, we actually educate them first. We let them know what would be the procedure and what would be the things that they have to come up with or they have to check with. It's very different from the conventional ones that as long as you have a driver's license, you can use it and you know how to use the gas. That's it. Here, in particular, in electric vehicle, we have to come up what are the safety measures in using the electric vehicle, what are the things that disadvantages of use, the disadvantages of and disadvantages of the unit as well. We have to educate them. We have to nurture them that this is new. Let them know what is right. And the turnout of events like putting terminal to terminal, not only on wherever they want to go, because the limit of how they would charge it on a specific area that there's no availability of charging station, it has to address it too. And in terms of where can we get the after-sales service of this unit? If there is no after-sales, why would you buy the unit if they cannot address those concerns? And that's where manufacturers and that's where the EVs will come in. It has to be precise. When you give something, you sell something, it has to be of a good quality.
Thank you. So a lot of developments are going on for the EV development, right from the standardization to the promotion and the battery development. So in this view, although there are a lot of challenges and issues are there, so what do you think, that means each of the stakeholders has a great role to play to make this EV promotion as a successful for the sustainable, you can say, the cities and the sustainable transport sector. So what, like the government, regulatory bodies, the users, then the manufacturers, so what role they have to, you feel, the panel feels that is to be played in an efficient way so that the promotion can be accelerated? To start with Steve. Start with him.
Yeah, just thinking back to the presentations that we had previously on the energy storage, where suppliers or parts of the ecosystem got together and actually put in place demonstration systems, but at a scale that made it worthwhile. And you saw those presentations, and that's what they did. And now they're starting to get some, that everybody's learnt from those. And I think that we have to do something similar, but do it right. Do it properly. Put in place the infrastructure for a barangay or a town or whatever it might be. And just show what needs to be done with some level of scale. It doesn't have to be thousands, but so that everybody can learn from it.
Yeah, I fully agree. Just get started. Basically, start with one and basically build from it, and that's how the ecosystem actually starts to work. And from there, we try to actually learn from the mistakes and actually correct it from there and improve on it. And I think that's the secret.
We at Evap, we address this all aspect in the roadmap. And we never consider ourselves as the only one who would work out well. We need government sectors. We need from the academe. We need something from manufacturers. We need from the lawmakers in order for us to create this a more effective industry. Because with this kind of aspect, each has been represented on pressing concerns on their on the electric vehicles. And for that reason, that what would hamper or what would be the roadblocks on implementing it, manufacturer, financer, fleet operators, and after sales, those are the things that we have to comply with in order to build the electric vehicle industry. And to establish one, banks are the ones who are the most needed because they haven't been accepted the fact that the electric vehicle is already here and they haven't been willing to finance it. So only a few people can buy the electric vehicles. Because of the cost, most of the manufacturers cannot penetrate the market. And how to downsize the cost? The law of supply and demand. We have to introduce that this is a very reliable market and a reliable unit and offer it on a good price. How does the supply and demand has to come in? Most of us have to be united and buy something that the supply chain would work well.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to open the session for the questions if you have from the audience. Anyone? No, I think everybody is in hurry to go to home. So I have the last question to the panel, that viability, the economic viability, like in any of the energy thing, earlier the cost of energy efficient equipment used to be very high. So people never use, that means it was the major roadblock to go for that, whether it's the domestic appliances or whether it's the industrial equipments. The energy efficient used to be like energy efficient motor, energy efficient fan, energy efficient air conditioners. Now also the normal air conditioners are there, but now air conditioners, the energy efficient air conditioners, they are coming up in the market and the people are more aware of that and they are going for that. So do you feel that the similar way, what is the best way that means although the cost, because here the cost difference is very high, as you mentioned correctly, that anyone cannot buy the electronic vehicle. It's like if you have one vehicle, then you can have other as an electric vehicle, but you cannot use it much more because it is not economical viable. So what do you feel? That means what steps will make this common man to buy, whether the cost or other things? That means only the cost is to be reduced or other factors are also there. That means the awareness, creating awareness, like in the energy case, the awareness has been increased about the payback period and other things. To start with the
Yeah, I mean, I think we haven't spoken much today about finance and getting finance into this industry, and that is a big factor of why things aren't moving forward as fast as they should be. The group I mentioned before, Tolino, Philippine group, have put together a payment gateway system that allows the EVs to be sold without the battery, and then the fleet managers and the drivers just pay per kilowatt hour. So it's a very good system. It's been operating here in Manila for the last 12 or 18 months, and it's a very good system. So there's one way of reducing the costs, and it's also a very good deal for the investors who would end up owning the batteries. So I think one of the big breakthroughs has got to be, and I guess we're starting to see it with Meralco and people like that starting to move into the industry. It needs you know, it needs that type of power put into it, so to speak.
Growing, the more that you have a problem, because more people are making use of the energy and making use of the ecosystem, making use of the vehicles. So most of those things constitute one aspect. It's the people who really has the that's the important factor that makes it grow, that makes it more demanding, that make it more that the ecosystem is, the fuel fossils are going up because more people are using diesel and gasolines. And in terms of energy consumption, more people need houses, more people need electricity. And we have to come up with our own terms on how we can help them in our own way in minimizing or making use of this. And in the industry of the electric, we are just one of the options that makes the energy diverted, not only directing on the fossil fuels, but also making use of the electric with some alternate energy consumption that is can be made a solution on this aspect. That's my.
Yeah, maybe on a point of view as a technology provider, basically you look at the whole value chain as far as economic viability is concerned, wherein you make improvements on each and every component of the whole ecosystem. That's one thing, and I think everyone in the industry is actually trying to do that. But one key point that our colleagues here have actually raised, there should be a conscious acceptance of this technology amongst the consumers as well. So in order for the consumers to actually accept it, again, it's a chicken and egg thing. It should be economically viable for them to actually afford it. But of course, the acceptance of people who are actually going to drive e-vehicles moving forward would play a critical role. It's a huge shift of mindset later on. When people, in majority of the guys in the room are still driving petrol cars, and even though we make it so economically viable on a technology perspective, would majority of the guys in this room still drive an e-vehicle car or a petrol car? So again, there should also be this consciousness and acceptance in the consumer mindset in order to make this one a much more long-term and sustainable ecosystem or an industry. So that's my personal and professional point on this one.
Great. Thanks a lot. That means the panel, what I got, that means there has to be efforts from all the part of the stakeholders, that they have to make and understand that this electric vehicle is not a problem actually, because many people, that means why people do, many people have money also, but they are not going for that. But in the mindset it is there, that there is something is there that we have to, this is the responsibility of the association, the technology providers, that we have to take it out from them, that yes, EV is possible and it will not give trouble in the future and like that. Thanks a lot. If there is no question, we will close this session. Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks to the panel for coming here and having the great discussion and participating. Thanks a lot. Thanks to all.